what comes down to it is the team that he'll get traded to, he has to agree that he'll sign an extension with them.
Yep.
So to catch everyone up, New England was interested, wanted to trade for him, but that got shut down. And that was a trade going back to draft night, but the Niners didn't like getting just a 34th pick in return. Now the Cleveland Browns have emerged. So there's been a lot of reports overnight. I would like to point out great reporting by ESPN's Mike Reese, great reporting by ESPN's Jeff Darlington as well. Darlington pointing out that it was a lot of intensity going. Also pointing out the Commanders backed out because of trade demand from the 49ers.
Right.
And the Pittsburgh Steelers were interested, but no longer because of the compensation the 49ers were getting back. Mm-hmm. I'm saying all this so that it's out, and then I'll let my awesome co-host Travis speak. This is a two-part trade. The 49ers have to agree to the compensation they're getting in return.
Right.
But it's on Brandon Aiyuk. He doesn't have a no-trade clause, but he might as well, because if he doesn't agree, he will sign an extension with the team he's getting traded to. They won't want to trade it. They don't want a rental because of how much they have to give up. All right, we're all caught up, I think, Trav. Anything I'll leave out?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I know you set me up to go on some sort of long monologue here, but I'm actually just going to volley this back to you.
Let's have a combo, bro.
I have a question. As someone who I believe could work in the front office if you were not a broadcaster, my question to you is this. The Browns trade for Aiyuk is a rental, is it not? They are not in a position, salary cap-wise, either this season or next season, to give him what he wants. So I look at this from a logical standpoint of the Patriots really is the only option here for him to get what he wants. He wants money, okay? Yep. If he's a rental player for the Browns, why go to Cleveland if you're not going to get an extension there because they can't afford it? Why not stay where you are out in the Bay? It's a better place to live, A. It's a better team, B. And C, they have a better shot at a Lombardi with you than the Browns do with you. So I have a disconnect somewhere of why would he consider the Browns? Like, is it a we give you our word handshake of we're going to create the space necessary to pay you? Well, how in the hell are you plan on doing that? I mean, you're going to cut the whole damn team? So I think New England's the only option, to be honest. I think New England and the 49ers can figure out the compensation. You and I have been tossing this around since the beginning of this. Figure it out, and then give this guy the money. It's the only – unless you're about to blow my mind, which you tend to do with cap stuff – unless the Browns can make it make sense financially, which I don't see how they can, I think the Patriots is the only option for Brandon Aiyuk and for the 49ers.
The reason we're seeing Cleveland and New England pop up as these two teams is because they have always been interested in trading for Brandon Aiyuk.
I understand that.
Now, with those two being the destinations, you're right, Trav. Here's the thing with Brandon Aiyuk. He is the number one receiver, most talented on that offense.
Yes.
But it's a four-headed monster with CMC, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, and now him and even Ricky Pearsall getting into the fold there, right?
Right.
He wants to go out and be a number one receiver, wants to go out and get paid as so. But with Brandon Aiyuk wanting to do that and seeing these two destinations, for Brandon Aiyuk, aside from getting paid, this is a bad trade. You're in this to win a Super Bowl. And if you win a Super Bowl and then enter free agency as a number one receiver, you have been as a top yards per target as he's put out as well.
Right.
You will get paid handsomely when the receiver market resets again. We're seeing Cleveland and New England pop up because they've been the most interested teams. And with Cleveland, it makes sense for the 49ers because they would get Amari Cooper in return. They would get a guy that's put up 1,100 plus yards 4 of the last 5 seasons and is 12 plus yards per catch the last 5 years. Just reliable, steady, and a number one receiver to play off of Deebo Samuel. The reason the Patriots are brought into this is because they have the cap space. The Browns have $12 million in cap space this season. Then they're in the red next season. The New England Patriots have $43 million this year, then $78 million this year with not a lot of pending free agents. Remember, They extended a lot of core guys and they drafted a ton of rookies.
Right.
This is an awful trade for Brandon Aiyuk because he's going to go from being the number one receiver on the best roster in the NFL, who is a true Super Bowl contender and are the best team in the NFC, to either going from a Shanahan offense to catching passes from Deshaun Watson, who sucks.
Right.
Or going from a Shanahan offense to a 3-year rebuild in New England.
Yeah.
But what does he get in New England? He gets paid $31 million a year. He gets $80+ million guaranteed. He gets $125 million in total value.
Right.
All top 3 numbers and getting paid as a receiver in the league. This doesn't make sense for Brandon Aiyuk at all as a guy that wants to accomplish a ton, and so you think, but you have to take the logic out of this. And as Matt Judon has said, there's football and then there's football business. And he doesn't want, Brandon Aiyuk, I'm talking now, he doesn't want to play without that guaranteed money. He doesn't want to play for $14 million this year.
Right.
He wants to play for $30 million plus.
Yeah.
And the Niners, keep in mind, have offered him in the upper $20 million a year range for AAV, but he wants more. Whoever is Brandon Ayuk's team, whoever's in his circle, it's just bad advice is what they're giving him, in my opinion. But to get to what you're pointing out, Trav, and again,
Yeah.
I have to separate myself from the logic and all this. The New England Patriots are lucky that Brandon Aiyuk is not prioritizing winning. He's prioritizing money.
Right.
$43 million in cap space this year, $78 million in cap space next year. And all they have to give up is Kendrick Bourne, who's a good receiver, but 29 years old and coming off a torn ACL, along with draft picks.
Bye.
Brandon Aiyuk, Jalen Polk, KJ Osborne, Javon Baker, Pop Douglas.
Yeah.
Those are your 5 receivers.
Right.
That is a good receiving room.
It's a better wide receiver room.
And
neither one of us ever felt like it was terrible, but we have talked about they need a true number one wide receiver. The issue is you're still not sure if he's a true number one wide receiver or not. You won't know that until he arrives to town and you see him alongside those names that you mentioned. It is a much different world for Brandon Aiyuk to go from Debo and George Kittle to Pop Douglas and the names that you laid out, Javon Polk, who we don't even know if he could play or not. Here's one thing I want to push back on you with, though. You say we got to take logic out of this. It doesn't make a lot of sense from a football standpoint, and his circle advising him and guiding him the wrong way. While I agree with all of those, it's because you and I care about winning. It's because you and I have made decisions in our careers already where, yeah, maybe we could have made more money somewhere else in a certain situation, but we loved what we were doing. We loved the team we were doing it with, so we made other decisions. You and I think that way. That's why it looks that way to us, George. But the reality is not everyone thinks the way you and I do. There are people that think the complete opposite, which is the right decision. The right thing to do is where the dollar bills, y'all, are. So Brandon Aiyuk clearly is operating from that place. Just because we don't understand it doesn't mean it's wrong. Doesn't mean it's not logical. It doesn't mean, look, if the guy, here's where I respect him, George, and why I'm sort of standing up for him in this sense. He's made it clear that this is his priority, that the money is. At least he's given us that. I don't like, personally, George, when people or athletes, whoever, says, how much do we hear this in sports? It drives me nuts. We hear it with coaches a lot, especially. Oh, I'm never going to leave. It's deeper than money. I mean, I love being here. I love my team. I love the city. And then 5 seconds later, somebody hands them a blank check and says, how much? And they are ghost, baby. They sign that thing and you never see them again. What happened to the love? What happened to you never leave? What happened to BS? That drives me nuts. But at least Brandon Aiyuk, from the beginning, has been very clear. And I'm telling you, I told you this summer when it was happening. All these receivers in this league, some of them deserving of these contracts, but many of them are not. And we know it. We know they're scrubs, and they're still getting paid big dollars. He saw all that, and he said, oh, hell no. I know I can ball, and he can. So he has been very clear and concise, George, from the beginning. He's about the money. You and I are not, and that's why it's not logical to us. Bro, we would stay in the Bay. If anything, you know what I would do? George, I would go to the Niners, and they seem like this kind of organization where I think they would go for this. I would sit down with John Lynch and Shanahan and the rest of them, and I would say, look, I want to get paid like the rest of these guys are. Some of these guys are losers, and we see the money getting paid. It's obvious that we're not agreeing on a contract, and that's fine. I have a year left. I'll honor it. Give me what you can. If you can throw me a little extra or some incentive or something, cool. But I'm going to play this out. Hopefully we win a Super Bowl. But regardless if we do or we don't, when this contract expires, do right by me by letting me hit the market and cash out. I'm not going to be here. You're not going to get anything for me. Don't franchise me. Don't play games with me. Can we have a gentleman agreement on that? Can we shake on that? And I would think the kind of organization the Niners are, they would say, yeah. And they would probably say, we'll leave the door open to renegotiate with you and see if we can make it work. Great. Or give us a chance to match. Great. And then I'd play out the season. But this guy, again, defending him in a way, he has been clear. I ain't doing none of that. Get me out of here. I want to get paid. If that is your motivation and what drives you, although I don't understand it, I will respect it that you've been consistent, Brandon Aiyuk. If that's the case, the Patriots need to match aggression. They need to say, listen, how do we get this deal done without giving you our first round pick? We're not doing that. Okay, we're not doing that. That's our hard out. Outside of that, we can have a conversation. And I believe this deal is going to get done now. I wouldn't be shocked if it's today or tomorrow. I think eventually, Kendrick Bourne, whatever else, they get it done. They send that to San Fran. We get Brandon Aiyuk. And in a week's time, we'll be having a press conference with one of the highest paid wide receivers in the game saying he can't wait to play alongside Drake May.